why I take a very procurement approach to my household expenses. In fact, even run my household like a business. Hi, I'm Justin Hitt with Sustainable Wealth Secrets. If you want to earn more and keep more of what you earn working for you, then pay close attention. I run my household like a business. Now, I'm running it more like a family office might run a large affluent household. However, I wouldn't qualify to be in a family office. Most family offices require $100 to $200 million in liquid net worth, and I'm not in that situation yet. When I talk about sustainable wealth, most of my subscribers are high-income professionals, high net worth individuals, affluent households, and they simply want to keep more of the income that's coming into their house. And they're very busy at work. They're subject matter experts. They're engineers. They're software developers. They're project managers, middle managers. They're people who work for a living or run a business for a living, and they just simply want, for every dollar that comes into the house, how do we multiply those dollars? How can we get those dollars working for us? And how can we keep more of our earnings? Now, to talk about procurement, which is the buying of things, it doesn't make any sense if you're going to keep more of the money. You think I would be telling you about a savings plan. You think I'd be telling you about debt reduction. But remember, we take a holistic approach at wealth building, and that includes the 8 forms of capital. One of those is time. So if you're in a situation where you've got a home and you've got responsibilities with that home. The home has to be cleaned. The yard has to be mowed. The upkeep needs to be maintained. And you're thinking, I'm going to save money by doing these things yourself. You could actually be costing you a volume beyond what is necessary. So I take a procurement approach to the services around the house. So the housekeeping service, I put out a request for proposal. I got a variety of pricing. I interviewed the different housekeepers. I brought them into the house and they do the work that would normally take me 3 to 4 hours. They do in 2 hours and much less than what it'd take me to do it. The lawn, for example, it's mowed by the kid down the street. Now, do I pay the kid less because he's a kid? No, I take a procurement approach. I'm buying the value. I tell the kid right up front, I'm paying you for the yard to be mowed all the time. When I look outside, I want to see nice, clean, mowed grass, edging, all that stuff taken care of. I'm not paying you by the hour. And that means because he can deliver on the quality that I'm looking for, I pay him adult wages. So he's making about $10 an hour mowing grass. He's making more than minimum wage, and sometimes he's making $20 an hour. Like, for example, if the grass is real dry and it hasn't been growing a lot, he can go through, mow that grass in both yards, about 2 acres, and get it done in about 90 minutes. If the grass is wet, it takes a little bit longer. He gets paid the same either way. But again, I'm paying for the results because I take a procurement approach. Now, what does this do for you when you take a procurement approach? Well, I kind of already touched on it. It allows you to take the emotion out of the activity, because there are times I feel guilty. I'm working at a desk and I got 3 housekeepers crawling around the house, scrubbing floors and cleaning stuff up. And I feel like, you know what? I could do a better job of keeping the house clean. But then again, I'm working 9-10 hours a day. I'm doing a newsletter. I'm working for clients. I've got filing to get done. I've got things that have fallen behind, like some areas of cleaning the house. That's just normal for a business owner. So it's better that I create a job opportunity in the marketplace and have somebody else clean the house rather than I do it myself. Now, I have relatives sometimes. I have friends that say, oh, you've got a housekeeper. Must be nice. Well, it's part of the decision-making process that if I want to reach and attain wealth, I've got to spend those 4 hours it takes me to clean the house working for clients while they take the 2 hours they have to clean the house. Now, it's 2 people at 2 hours, and so it's an equivalent 4 hours either way. But for me, it's 0 hours because they're doing the cleaning and they do a better job. They bring their materials and supplies. There's a lot of overhead that they're taking care of, and ultimately, it is a partnership for the outcome that I desire. So the kids mowing the grass. I'm paying the kid what would could be considered adult wages, but again, I'm paying for the outcome. And it comes time where they're kind of slacking a little bit. So most of the kids I've been hiring to mow grass have been 15, 16, 17. And that's about the time kids start getting cars. And when they get their car, they like having the extra money. And they also like having the car and hang out with their friends. And sometimes the two conflict. So it might go a week when they haven't mowed the grass. I'm not getting what I'm looking for as far as the grass being well maintained. Sometimes the poor guy's out there pushing through tall grass. I do allow it to go a little longer because he's a kid and he's just learning. And there's some mentoring going on there as well. But ultimately, because I'm paying adult wages, I have no problem with putting out an RFP and finding out what it would cost for a landscaping service to basically mow and mulch. Now, it doesn't mean I'm going to fire the kid. It doesn't mean I'm not going to provide him some feedback so that he can do a better job. And it doesn't mean that I'm not going to get my own kid to do the work. But because I'm paying fair wages, there isn't a significant advantage to me over one vendor versus another. And this is very important to remember because I do have some neighbors and people I've worked with in the past who will hire a cheap landscaper and they get an okay result, but they're constantly frustrated about the guy didn't show up on time. It almost becomes a situation where you're doing the other person a favor. You will not get wealthy. You will not maintain security and financial success in your home if you are doing favors for people. So I'm asking for fair exchange of value. In fact, in the procurement model, I want to make money on the purchase. So my purchase is justified rather than just an emotional decision. And I want to make money or gain value over the time of interaction. So I save a significant amount of time. I've got a reliable vendor. And then also I know what my price value comparison is because I periodically check prices. And this is different than what a lot of people do because, again, a lot of people are not wealthy and a lot of people are not building their success. A lot of people can't measure the growth and value of their net worth. But I even go and every year take all my insurance policies, make a big inventory of them because you need to make sure your insurance is covered. I've got car insurance, health insurance, household insurance. I've got umbrella policies, a liability insurance. I've got insurance in the business, out of the business, in the rentals, out of the rentals. I take all of that and put a big inventory together to make sure I'm properly insured, which is protecting the wealth. And then I send it out to 3 or 4 insurance brokers to see if I've got adequate coverage, to see that I've got a fair premium that I'm paying. And usually every other year, one of those brokers will come back with a package that I can life insurance as well. So I can consolidate all my policies under, I think I was using Ameriprise there for a little while. And then ultimately I get a better price. Now, I could personally get on the phone and call every insurance company and make sure that I'm properly covered. I could get on the phone and spend hours and days tracking down, comparing policy A versus policy B. And I know a lot of people tell me, well, you can go to a website and they're going to give you the best policy. Well, I don't know that they're giving me the best policy. In fact, I've had clients that are those types of sites. They usually have the best affiliate relationships. My point being, though, by writing up an inventory, getting an RFP together, a request for proposal, sending it to the right professionals in the marketplace. In my case, it's insurance brokerages or larger insurance agencies that can have multi-policy. I very often end up getting multi-policy discounts. I end up getting a better feedback about what types of insurance I should or should not have. I get an audit on my policy coverage, and ultimately I have an advantage there taking a procurement approach. Now, you might be saying, well, Justin, this is innovative. This is a unique idea. I've never heard of this before. Where did this come from? Well, it turns out in the Victorian times, there were a number of books called household management books, and they talked about staff. Now, I know some of you thinking slaves, but there was a time in our economy where money was based on physical assets. And so you could actually afford to hire somebody because wages were not as inflated. So you could create a business or an opportunity in a community and hire people to work for you. Now, today, though, it's a little bit different. I think it was about the 1960s and 1970s when the currency went to a more fiat currency, less tied on physical assets, where you could be earning $4,000 to $5,000 a year, and a house would only be $5,000 to $6,000. Now, today, you could be earning $40,000 to $50,000 a year, and a house is $100,000 to $200,000. So basically, the ratio of earnings versus basic purchase items has changed a lot. Wages are stagnating and going down. You might be making a good income right now, but you may not be having the same buying power in 5 years. The cost of goods are going up because they're inflated, because labor rates have higher levels of regulation. There are fewer people in the marketplace. There are other economic concerns, but it turns out in the 1800s, in the 1850s, in the 1890s, and in the early 1900s, they had manuals on how to manage your household. And you would have people who work in the house. They would be, housekeepers. There would be people who, a butler that meets at the door. Now, very affluent families still have these things, and very wealthy families still have these things. But it was very common for someone's starting job. See, this is before a minimum wage was established by the federal government. You had what was called opportunity wages, or an opportunity where you could go work for a family and basically learn skills that you could later leverage in a marketplace. I won't get into all that. We talk about it in other places, but essentially I borrowed the household management concepts, applied them today, and it is essentially being a procurement manager or a quartermaster for your home. And when you approach your home expenses this way, you start looking at your home and realizing what it really is. It's a liability. It's not an asset. Your home may increase in value, but that increase in value is more because your home is a physical asset and the world around it is inflating. You're not actually getting extra cash flow out of a larger home. So if you manage your household like a business, you keep track of how much money are you putting into your household, and then what is the value the household delivers to you, both time, financially, and otherwise, is it located near your workplace? There's categories you can use. You'll realize what balance of home that you need. Now, I'm at a situation right now where I've got an older home and I don't need as much space because in 5 years, my kid is going to be off at college, or he's going to be on his own. So I'm already planning, because again, I'm planning like a business. What is my 5-year plan, my 10-year plan, my 20-year plan, to look at downsizing? So instead of, I'm an empty nester, and then, I've finally decided, should I downsize? And I've wasted a lot of time and resources to keep a house clean that I didn't use half the rooms. There are closets in this house right now I've never opened. I open them. I guess there's stuff in there, and I'm going to clean it out eventually, but I don't have a need to go in and out of that closet. Well, why should you have the closet? Why should you be paying for the heating and air conditioning of something that you're not completely using? And if you know in a timeline that that's going to be a situation in 3 to 5 years, then you can plan accordingly and be ahead of that while being a better steward of your finances, your physical assets or property, and then get a realization of what you're doing. So before the city pissed me all off, I was spending about $28,000 a year on services. So I would hire laborers, and I would hire an administrative assistant. I hired a lot of folks, okay? It made my life better. It made my life more productive. And I was breaking even on that investment. So if I did the work myself, I would have offset my earnings by at least $28,000. Now I'm doing this for 3 to 5 years, and I did run into problems with the city because the city basically said that I was having employees at the house. Now, technically, yes, they are household employees, but under the zoning, you can have household employees. Long story short, I cut all that out just to see if it made a difference. Well, my house got messier. I got more busy. I got distracted on things like, I'm personally cleaning a rental property. But again, it's just a thought experiment. 6 months of it ain't going to hurt anything before I go back. But the key is I knew that I'm breaking even. Now, sometimes I would spend a little money to get people to take care of things. And sometimes those people who are taking care of things were generating income. And now it's no different than what you might be doing. You might have a CPA who fills out your tax return. You might have a bookkeeper. You might have, just like when I send out a RFP, I have insurance brokers that are going out and bidding for my work. It's a different mindset. It's a different approach, but it is a transformational outcome. Now, it doesn't mean that somebody does everything. I've shifted focus so that I have more time with the kid, more family focus, and I have a few social activities that I enjoy doing. Despite COVID, I still manage to do some social activities. I'm also doing more physical activities because one thing that did happen is I had a lot of people doing other work. I was sitting in front of a desk all day long and I was not doing enough physical activity. So I gained a little bit of weight and I've had some frustrations with health problems that were the result of doing this for years. So there is some times where you're going to balance your personal needs against your outside needs. Now, there was a time too that I had a little heart problem going on. So I actually hired out an additional amount of work and that was unprofitable. So I couldn't physically do the activity. So I hired people to do the activities and it actually cost me significantly more than what my cash flow would allow for. But again, I know the difference. A procurement approach or running your household like a business gave me the insights I needed to make the adjustments necessary so that I didn't end up in a financial bind. So again, and I'll just summarize, this is not about keeping up with the Joneses. This is not about becoming affluent in the sense that you don't have to do anything. This is not about flaunting wealth and I don't go get $21,000 landscape jobs done. I get a mow and mulch. That's all I'm getting. And if the kid down the street's doing the mow and mulch, I'm happy with that. It's about freeing up your resources so that they can grow. It's about being open and able to see new opportunities because I'm not dicking around mowing the grass. I don't fix my own lawnmower. I take it somewhere once a year and they fix it all for me, sharpen the blades, balance it all out, and give it right back to me for $40 in perfect condition. But it is a unique and different approach at looking at how you interact with the economies around you. I'm Justin Hitt with Sustainable Wealth Secrets. If you have any questions about this or any other program, please give me a call, not the telephone call, just leave a message about your questions by visiting www.sustainablewealthsecrets.com. I know this is an unusual set of advice, and you will not find these details elsewhere. I put a lot of time and effort into understanding ways to improve my own prosperity, and I'm happy to share these with you as your questions come in and as there's an applicable need. There are programs that I have available that go into more depth and detail. Just simply write with your questions. That's the best way to engage with me. I'll reply to your response. It's always best that you fax me a written question or you send it in by mail because I tend to stay off social media and the online platforms because I spend so much time sitting at a desk. I want to thank you for listening. Again, I'm Justin Hitt with Sustainable Wealth Secrets, and this has been about how to approach your household, how to manage the decisions you make in a household out of the procurement models and the project management models so that you can spend more time with family, so that you can get more of your earnings working for you. Thanks for listening.